Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from group 6 of 12 Science 6 and now we are going to presentation about narrative text. Before we go to the presentation, let's go to introduce myself and my friend. My name is Hanifah Nabila Zahwan Nuraini. My name is Desi. My name is Paska Sianipar.
My name is Alvin Dian A.
My name is Nisrina Siti Nurfarida.
I think it's enough for the introduce myself and my friends. Now we are going to the presentation. Table of contents. Definition of narrative text, social function, generic structure, genre of narrative text, the language features, and example of narrative text. Narrative text. Narrative text is a type of text that tells about story or describes sequence of events.
Social function: 1. To entertain the reader. 2. To amuse the reader. 3. To teach moral values. 4. To change social opinions.
Generic structure, orientation. It is about the opening paragraph where the character in the story introduction, person, time, and place. Complication, where the problem in the story develop. Resolution, where the problem in the story develop.
Genre of narrative text. The first, fairy tales. Fairy tale stories about imaginary creatures and nerves. 2. Fable. Fable stories whose characters are animals. 3. Myth. Myth something that is not real and this is mere fabrication. 4. Folk tale. Folk tale is traditional story that people of particular region or group repeat among themselves.
Romance tells romance story and is traditional story that has been passed down for generation. It often explains the origin of particular culture or society. Envision that story related to science and technology had action rarely and only action history. Horror stories, stories about ghosts or related to nothing scary.
The language feature. The first is number 1, use past tense. Example is last night and yesterday. Number 2 is use adverb of time. Example is one upon time and one day. Number 3 is use time conjunction. Example is when, then, and suddenly. Number 4 is use specific character. Example is Cinderella and Snow White. Number 5 is use action verbs. Example is afraid that saw the action. Number 6 and the last one is use direct space. Example is to make the story thoroughly.
A long time ago, there lived a beautiful princess who had smooth and white skin named Snow White. Her mother died when she was a child, and now her father married the king. The new queen was very pretty, but she was so mean to Snow White. The queen dreamed to be the most beautiful lady in the kingdom. She would often ask her magic mirror,
"Mirror, mirror, who is the most beautiful one in this kingdom?"
and the magic mirror would say,
"You are, Your Majesty."
One day, the mirror changed its answer.
"Your daughter, Snow White, is the most beautiful one in this kingdom."
The queen envied for Snow White's beauty, so she decided to order the huntsman to take Snow White to the forest and kill her.
I want you to bring me her heart.
When the huntsman reached the forest, however, he took pity on Snow White and set her free. He convinced the queen that he had killed Snow White by bringing a deer's heart and told her it was her heart. Deep in the forest, Snow White wandered all night to find a safe place. The next morning, she finally found a tiny cottage and went inside. There was nobody there. She only saw 7 plates on the table and 7 tiny beds in the bedroom. Then she went to the kitchen and cooked a delightful meal. She also cleaned the entire house. As she grew tired, she fell asleep on one of the beds. In the afternoon, the 7 dwarfs who lived in the cottage came home. They were surprised to find a girl was sleeping on the bed. Snow White woke up and told them her whole story. The dwarfs had great sympathy for her and asked her to stay with them. They loved and cared for her very much, so they told her to not open the door to strangers when they were away. Meanwhile, in the palace, the queen asked her mirror, and she knew that Snow White was still alive and lived with the 7 dwarfs in the forest. She was so furious and decided to make a magic potion that would put Snow White into deep sleep forever. Then she dipped a red shiny apple into the poisonous potion. One morning, the weak queen disguised herself as an old peasant woman. She came to the cottage and called Snow White through the window.
"Oh, pretty lady, let me in. I have something special for you."
"I'm sorry, old lady, I can't let you in. The 7 dwarfs have told to stay away from strangers."
"I have a juicy and sweet apple, my dear. Do you want it?"
Snow White took it, and just bite one bite, she fell onto the floor. The weak queen then went back to her palace. She once again asked her mirror, and now she was the most beautiful one in the kingdom. She was so happy to hear it. When the 7 dwarfs came home, they found Snow White lying on the floor. They were deeply upset and cried all night. Then they placed Snow White in front of their cottage. One day, a charming prince who was passing the woods saw it. He was dazzled by Snow White's beauty and then kissed her. The true first kiss had broken the spell, and Snow White awoke from the deep sleep. The 7 dwarfs were very happy. At last, the prince married her and took her to his palace. Then they lived happily ever after.
That's our presentation. Thank you for watching. Bye!